Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Tryon. Welcome to one of the last blocks we're doing in the 2024 Block of the Month Club, where we're working on the Barnstar sampler. And we have got the tiniest little blocks to do today. We're making 4 of these little blocks. And it's hard to see this one, not a lot of contrast. But this is what it looks like. I've got 3 of them done. This is block number 19, and it's called the mill wheels. And it's here on page 36, and we are going to be putting one of these together. Pretty easy little blocks. By now, you've really been through it, and we're getting right to the end. Next door is the last one. So we're going to get started. Just a couple little things to call out, really, is we're going to be making elongated flying geese and regular flying geese in this, and then also square and a square. So even though this block is small, there's lots of little different techniques in it. So lay your pieces out, nothing special in terms of cutting, but lay your pieces out, A, B, C, D. And I've got my rotating cutting mat here, and it is helpful for blocks like this. So we're going to go ahead and start by making a flying geese unit using a B piece and 2 A pieces. So we can show you overhead. A B piece and 2 A pieces. And with your little A pieces, we want to be drawing a diagonal line down the backs of the A pieces. So if you don't have a laser, go ahead and draw a line down the backs of all of your A pieces. That's just going to kind of get you going. You may as well do them all at once. And I'm just using a regular pencil here, but you could use a wash away or a heat away or something like that. And you're going to be making in the actual instructions, it'll tell you you need to make 4 of these blocks, but the instructions themselves are for 1 block at a time. So we need to have 2 of the small flying geese units. So I've got 1 ready right here, you can see. Overhead, yeah. I've got my daughter Ruby on the cameras today. That's okay. You can just go ahead and show them, Ruby. No big deal. You're doing great. So 1 flying geese unit, and then we're going to make another flying geese unit, and then we're going to make, see the difference here, not to get them mixed up, an elongated flying geese unit, because you'll see in the actual block, you've got 2 small flying geese units and 2 elongated flying geese units. So don't be confused. That's what we're doing. And you can go ahead and chain piece these, but I'm just doing them one at a time because I've worked ahead a little bit. Otherwise, you'd be watching me all night. Okay, so one side, and we're going to start from the center and move down to the left. And remember, this is just straight sewing. You don't have to use your 1/4 inch here because you're sewing directly on the line, remember, for flying geese units. It's half square triangles where we are sewing on the other side of the line. So with flying geese, we're sewing directly on the line, you can see here. And basically when I say yes, then you can switch it. Okay, and then I'm going to cut a 1/4 of an inch away from that line. But remember, I like to do that little test first to make sure, yep, it's squared off at this end before I cut it, because you could always seam rip that if you had like a bit of a wonky seam. So you can take off that little bit. These pieces in some of the bigger blocks, we're saving these, but these ones are quite small. So it's up to you if you want to sew those ones. And then I'm going to give this just a little finger press here. And then I can bring my other square over, and it's going to overlap slightly here. And then I'm going to sew from the inside down to the bottom right. Again, directly on the line. And then just do a little test to make sure it's looking square. Looks pretty good. And I can cut 1/4 of an inch away from the line that I just sewed on. There we go. And then you're going to want to press towards your blue or towards your the wings. So I've got my pressing mat today here, and we're just going to press up. And I don't mind giving it a little bit of steam if I'm not moving, so nothing's getting stretched because it lies nice and flat. So you need to make 2 of those flying geese units per block, okay? So if you're chain piecing them for all 4 of your blocks, you'll do that all together and make 2 flying geese units for each block. And then we also need to make 2 elongated flying geese units. And the elongated ones are where you might kind of get a little bit of a brain freeze because you're going to take a B piece like this, and then you're going to take what seems like the exact same, well, it is the exact same size piece, and it's going to go down like this. And we're going to draw a line across. And, oops, sorry, we're going to draw a line this way. And you kind of want to move it over just a smidge when you're drawing the line so you know when to stop. It's hard to kind of see sometimes where to stop. But you want a diagonal line just on the top part of that rectangle, just on the top part. And then make sure everything is flush. And we're going to sew directly on that top part. And then when it folds over, it's going to make a longer edge, a longer wing. This is a big wingspan, this flying geese. So again, sewing right on the line. And then check. And now look at this. This is much, much longer. Looks good. Give it a finger press. And now again, same thing applies. I'm putting the 1/4 inch mark right on top of my stitches so I can cut 1/4 inch away. And then when I open it up, it's got a much, much longer wingspan than the other flying geese. And then same goes with the other side. I can lie it down and then draw my line. And you want to make sure you know when to stop because you're not going all the way across the rectangle. It's just that top half. And then you're going to sew directly on that line. And when you're doing all of yours, you can go ahead and chain piece these all at once. That's going to be a little bit more efficient. Or if you just need to get the hang of the elongated flying geese, do one first, and then maybe you can go ahead and do some more. Okay, I'm going to press that again towards the wings. Bring over my cutting mat. Oh, I forgot to trim it. Trim before cut. Or sorry, cut before press. There we go. There we go. Okay, and now I'll set my 2 elongated flying geese aside and my 2 regular flying geese aside, sort of the mama and the babies. They can fly up here for a minute. And we're going to work on step 3, which is the square in the square. And I've got a bunch of D pieces here. And I can go ahead and same deal, draw a line down the back diagonally on all of those D pieces. And if you don't have the laser, you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way here. If you had the laser, you would just bring these over to your machine, and the laser would scan a little laser beam down the middle of your square, so you knew where to stay sewing. You wouldn't have to follow a pencil line. There would be a laser line that you would follow. It's pretty cool. I'm sure there's someone on here right now going, I love my laser, I'm using it. But not everyone has a laser, so I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. No problem. So if you need some further instructions on how to do the square and the square, or even the flying geese, if you turn back to page 76, there are written instructions here too on how to do the square in the square unit, which is essentially just taking your square. So we've got that, I think it's D piece, or sorry, the E piece, and then you're taking all of your little D pieces, and you're going to start one side and then the other side. And you need to go opposite sides. So you need to sew here, and then you need to sew here, flip them up, and then work on the other sides. So first things first, I'm going to sew right on the line. Again, we're not a 1/4 of an inch away from the line. We're right on the line here. I must say, I've switched back to sewing on my S9. Whew, it's nice because the presser foot automatically lifts. And I've been doing a lot of manual sewing on the 6650 and the 6700 these days, and on some of the smaller machines. And kind of forget how nice it is to have that automatic lift. You know, you don't even have to press it down. It just lifts when you start sewing. Okay, so I've got both sides down here, and when I press them back, looks good. And now I can trim a 1/4 of an inch away from my seam. So I'm going to lay my 1/4 inch line on my ruler right on my stitches. So I've got a 1/4 inch over to the right, and I'll just trim that away. And then you're going to want to press out towards your D pieces. And then once you've got those two sewn on, then you can bring the rest of your D pieces and basically do the same thing with the other two corners. Remember, you want to have your lines starting in the center and coming to the side center, and you'll sew them on one at a time so that you're effectively creating a square and a square. Here we go. Do a little test, make sure it's kind of square. This one is a little off. What did I do here? I'm gonna do this one again. Don't be afraid to, if it doesn't look square, to sew it again. It only takes a second. I'm just gonna seam rip that out, and I'm just gonna do a little better at squaring this up, because it will make a difference in the end how it looks. There we go. I know, I don't think there's been a class yet that I haven't had to seam rip something or give it another go around, or the thread jams or something. But hey, you know what? That's what happens when you're sewing, and that's real life, right? So I leave it in. What can I do? Okay, looks better. Okay, now I can trim away. You know, and it's to encourage you guys too, that if it doesn't look quite right, to take the second and fix it. Doesn't mean you're a bad sewer, doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Just sometimes the way things lie. And then I'm going to sew directly on the other side. And just test it. Looks cute, a little square in the square. Okay, I got to trim these sides now. There we go. And remember, we're pressing again towards the points. Give it a good press here. And this little square in the square unit should measure 2.5 by 2.5. So you can go ahead and take a look. You may have a little 2.5 by 2.5 inch square. If you do, that's going to help you square this up. So I've got my little 2.5 inch square here, and I'm just going to lay it down and see. Basically anything sticking out the edge is fair game. Good. Good. This is why the rotating mat is so nice. Okay. So now we can bring back all of our little pieces, and we'll start with the middle, lay that out. And then the 2 flying geese units are going to go on either, the 2 small ones are going to go on either end. And then the long ones with the triangle facing down, and then the triangle facing up, right? Yes, like this. Sorry, I know I chose the one that doesn't have as much contrast. This blue has more contrast, but you'll see it. Sorry if it's hard to see. Okay, so we know it's laid out, and we're going to go right sides together in the middle here, and then a 1/4 inch seam. So I'm going to change my foot over to the 1/4 inch foot. Easy. Maybe you're using the HP foot. That's cool too. And since I'm not using the HP foot, I'm just moving my needle over a little smidge. When I choose the 1/4 inch, I'm just going to choose the 1/4 inch on here. There we go. And you'll chain piece all of yours, one after another. Okay, and so one side, and did that? What's happening? I think I need to go in. Because I'm sewing with Deco Bob and I just switched the stitch, I'm just reducing my tension a little bit and sewing over it. Because Deco Bob's so thin, if you're getting stitches that look a little loose, it's just because that thread is so thin. If you reduce your tension a bit, that'll help. There we go, that's better. So we got one side in, and now it's right sides together on the other side, and we're sewing a 1/4 inch along here. There we go. What I love about this machine too is because I put it in the quilting mode or the piecing mode, it remembered how many stitches I did on the other side and did exactly that many stitches on that side. Very cool. All right, so now we're going to press this towards the outside. So this side's going this way and this side's going that way. That's going to make it easier for us to nest these seams. So this one's going this way, this one's going that way. nice and flat. And then make sure you don't mix up which way the arrow is going here. The arrow is pointing down and pointing up, just like this. So right sides together. And actually, there's no nesting here, really. So if you decide to press it another way, not the end of the world. All right. Okay. And I'll just finger press that for now. Press it for real in a sec. And this one, arrow pointing up, right sides together, fold it over. And now if you have a little bowing or, it's not quite straight, you can make up for that in the seam allowance here. So just watch for that. And when you're getting right here and you can see that your triangle, if you've got your triangle facing up, be careful, you can avoid sewing over your point. If you just keep a watch where your point is and make sure that you sew just to the right-hand side of it, and you'll make sure your points are preserved on your block. Okay. And there we go. Give that one a press. So you're going to be making 4 of these little blocks. These are little filler blocks for when we're assembling our big Barnstar. They help make things fit together. So we need these tiny little ones. They're just as important as the big ones. And now this should measure 4.5 by 4.5. And if you have a 4.5 by 4.5 inch square, now's a good time to use it. If you don't and you have some other size square, like a big square like this, that's fine too. I'm just going to go ahead and use that. I'm lining up my diagonal line, and with the 4.5 inch mark, I'm putting the corner right on the 4.5 so I can see what needs to be trimmed, how much extra room I might have. And this side, lining up the 4.5. Okay. So cute. This is Mill Wheels. Pretty old-fashioned name, I think. But once you've got 4, you're done. These little blocks could not be cuter and are really going to help with our overall big quilt here. You can kind of see some of them right in a row, right in the center here, just to help beef up these other blocks and bring them to size. So, good job. Only one more block to go. So I will see you in the next lesson. It's just on the one below. I'm going to help Ruby find the little, there we go. Press show there. All right, bye guys.